Welcome back to another episode of Aselia the Eternal. Today we are doing mission 4, and this one is a little bit of a doozy. The turn requirement for this mission is 30 turns in order to get an SS rank, so hopefully that illustrates to you that this is going to be a little bit of a complicated one. Truth be told, I had done quite a bit of testing for this mission, but I found that it wasn't really going the way that I wanted it to until I kind of just said to hell with it and just sort of did whatever seemed the most natural. This mission is complicated by the fact that there is a mission that happens immediately after this that we do have to sort of prepare for, and I'll show you what I mean by that when we get there. I think first things first, let's talk about our characters. We've gotten a bunch of new characters, so let's talk about them. Aselia is a character that we've had since the beginning of the game, but I haven't really talked about her. She is a blue spirit, which means that she is typically very offensively oriented with some interrupt utility, right? She does good damage with her basic attacks, and then she has the ability to prevent other spirits from using their special abilities. Aselia, like most of the main heroines, is going to be generally as good, if not better, than most of the other spirits of her color. And if you can see here, her leap attack, for example, does more damage than the same rank leap attack by the other blue spirits. And she gets Ice Vanisher and Ice Vanisher 1 relatively early. Similarly with Aselia is a green spirit, and she is one of the best characters that we have access to right now. She's very tanky. She does pretty decent damage. She has the ability to attack 16 times without refreshing any skill usages, which is, I think, the highest that we have currently. And she has two pretty good support skills. I mentioned before that if we ever gained access to all-rounders, Aselia would be, at least currently, probably our best option for that, because she has a bunch of synergy here. She has great defensive capabilities, she has the ability to buff her own defensive abilities, and then she has the ability to do pretty decent damage. Bucking the trend a little bit is Orpha. Orpha is not very good yet. The game kind of suggests that she will become very good with training, but she is currently, at least, kind of eclipsed by one of our new recruits, who I will talk about shortly. But she's a red spirit, and red spirits are offensively oriented, but sort of from the opposite direction of a blue spirit. Whereas a blue spirit typically is offensive in the attacker position, red spirits are typically offensive in the supporter position. Which does give them kind of a unique utility, right? The most damage that you're going to be able to do is going to be a blue spirit with a red spirit. So there's room for them in the game, but I find that they're typically harder to use than the blue spirits are, because I think that the interrupt utility is just super important. Whereas red spirits are kind of glass cannons, they don't have a lot of bulk, and they typically don't prevent your party from taking damage, so you really need to be very deliberate in the way that you use them. Alright. Yuto is our main character. He is an Et Ranger. He is, second to Aselia, probably the best character that we have right now. Although that's a little contentious. He's not great at blocking, but he does have pretty good bulk, so he can definitely take a hit. He does good damage with his heavy attack, and he actually has two really pretty important support abilities. They either buff attack or defense respectively, but they also heal for 20% for the whole party, which makes them actually really strong, and they can't be interrupted by blue spirits, so they can actually serve as a way to burn ice banish charges without actually, losing the effectiveness of the skill, right? Now, Himika is Orpha's main competition, and as you can maybe see already, she is actually quite strong. She comes in at a much higher level than Orpha does, but she's also a better character in the attacker position, and she's a comparable character in the support position. She's actually kind of a weird hybrid between a blue spirit and a red spirit. She's kind of all defense or all offense, no utility. But that means that you can use her in ways that you can't use Orpha, at least currently. Himika is going to be most likely the MVP this mission, because she does a lot of damage. These do elemental damage rather than physical damage, so they will actually do more damage than you might expect against a lot of the enemies in this mission. Nelly is our second blue spirit, and she is kind of an interesting case. She starts out with Ice Banisher 2, so immediately quite useful, but her leap attack is special because she can attack 3 times per round of combat. She doesn't do as much damage with her leap attack, but being able to attack 3 times is pretty valuable, as you might expect. And there are situations where we can use her to kill an enemy that only has chip health remaining and then do meaningful damage to another enemy, in situations where other characters might not be able to output that same amount of effective damage. Shia is our third blue spirit, and she is unfortunately not quite as valuable compared to her sister. She starts out a level lower, and she doesn't have access to Ice Banisher 2. But she is still a blue spirit, so she still does have the same basic general utility that you would expect. So she's always going to be kind of useful. It's not an unreasonable thought to have a blue spirit in each party, right? And so the fact that we have 3 means that we can have a blue spirit in each party, which is nice. Hallian is our next green spirit, and she is unfortunately pretty underwhelming compared to Asperia, in my opinion. She doesn't have nearly the same offensive or defensive capabilities, which means that she is quite a bit harder to use, unfortunately. Her big claim to fame is the fact that she has Harvest, which is an AoE heal that heals all allies in the formation. This is good in certain situations, but I find that this is a difficult skill to find time for. Let me put it that way. And I would much rather have a character that had more bulk or had more defensive or offensive utility rather than the ability to heal. I just don't put a lot of value in healing at this stage in the game outside of specific boss battles. And we probably wouldn't bring Hallian to those boss battles anyway, unfortunately. We will use her by virtue of the fact that she is a green spirit, so she is going to be our third tankiest character at this point. But she's not a character that we feel good about using, if that makes sense. And then last, and unfortunately least, is Hellion. I don't know why there's a character named Hallian and then a character named Hellion. Those are not the names that I would have chosen, but those are the names that we've got. Hellion is our first black spirit. Black spirits are... they have good flavor, but I don't know that they're especially valuable in practice. They are sort of glass cannon attackers, so whereas red spirits are sort of glass cannon supporters, black spirits can be used in both the attack and defense position, and basically all their attack skills and all of their defense skills are specialized in doing damage. Their attack skill, at least the next rank of the attack skill, will attack 3 times, which is nice. And the counterattack does damage when attacked. Unfortunately, they just don't do very much damage. And while there is some niche in being able to block multiple attacks or being able to attack more times than an enemy can defend, I find that there are other characters that do this better currently. So, Nelly, for example, can attack 3 times, but she's got 3 times the attack power that Hellion does, which means that she's kind of already better than her in her own niche, straight out the box. Hellion also, unfortunately, is level 1, which means that she's going to need quite a lot of investment before we feel comfortable using her in any real capacity. We're not going to level her up right away, but we are going to level her up some before this mission is over. I don't remember, honestly, if Black Spirits are any good. In fact, they may not be very good, but I'm going to try and use everybody. I don't want to dismiss certain strategies out of hand entirely. Terror is interesting here, in that they reduce defense. I'm not sure how much this matters. And again, you're in a situation where you're using a Black Spirit in the support position instead of a Blue Spirit or a Red Spirit, which is not always a great value proposition. Now, to be fair, there is a reasonable comp that you could use, which is a Blue Spirit, a Black Spirit, and a Red Spirit, right? Because Black Spirits do have the ability to tank in theory. They are designed to be attacked. I'm just not sure how useful that composition is. But those are our new characters. Some of them are going to be more useful than others in the upcoming missions, and you'll see why. But that's who we have available to us. And I think I'm going to stop this video here, actually, and I will do the mission next.